Hey, what's up? This is Wilsfer with Abysmal Hymns, and yeah, this is you might be listening to us actually on Spotify because we just opened up the new Spotify page for the podcast. Eventually, maybe we'll switch to video there. I've got a new camera coming, so even if it's YouTube, there's no video. But I got Reza Mills with me, and we're gonna get into our top five jazz albums. They really kind of demonstrate how broad of a genre jazz is. Most people kind of think of smooth jazz, which is basically music. And maybe I have one artist with an element of that, but I would say that it's something that's, you're going to see a pretty broad, encompassing genre while being true to what it's about. So,
Sure.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much the same, man. When we say smooth jazz, I had horrible images of Kenny G coming to mind. Thankfully, not the case here. Yeah, it's a broad church, and it feels like a natural extension of where our last show last week was experimental stuff. It's certainly a divisive genre, but I'm hoping that our picks will, you know, um, at least get people curious enough to check it out because there is some worthwhile stuff there too.
Right. Okay. Well, do you want to kick us off with the first one?
Sure will, absolutely. So I'm going to start off in chronological order with Black Flag's Process of Weeding Out. And I said divisive, and my God, this was certainly a long way from the band who did Six Pack. It's an instrumental EP for those who don't know it. I think it's four tracks, three, four, yeah, four tracks. And it's kind of, as I say, it's instrumental. It's Greg Ginn, you forget for all his weirdness and some of his recent antics with, slagging off former Black Flag members and, recruiting children to the lineup, was a very skillful guitar player influenced by Ornette Coleman and all those sort of people. And it really shows on this release. And that's what I love about Black Flag. They were constantly evolving and experimenting and really digging into it. And in case you didn't know, I think the title hints at the fact that, yeah, the band were probably experimenting not just musically, but also in terms of the substances they might have been imbibing at the time. Yeah, the great Kira Rosler and what's his name? Bill Stevenson were also backing him up on this release. So, yeah, first choice, Black Flag, the process of weeding out.
Yeah, that is an interesting pick. I can't argue against it. It's one of those albums where when I heard it, I was like, "Oh, wait, this is Black Flag." Um, but you can hear that influence in what they do and in kind of the abstract nature that some of the songs wander off into.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that they would make a jazz album.
Certainly not, no. And it's definitely an interesting release. Again, even if there's people listening to this that are like, oh, at the thought of listening to jazz, especially Black Flag doing it, do give this record a listen. For me, the spirit of punk is just to do whatever you want and to challenge people. And I think they've lived up to that on this release. So yeah, definitely a favorite of mine.
Right, for sure. I mean, obviously respect it. It's not an album I return to a ton when it comes to Black
Hmm.
Flag, but it's how
Yeah.
it goes. I
Yeah.
enjoy it when I do listen to it. So there's nothing wrong with that pick. I am surprised that that's where your list starts.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
Because
Oh,
my first pick is going to go back to 1960.
okay.
Um, I guess you could have been surprised. Some people could have been surprised when I said jazz. Maybe that might not be the first thing think of when I come to mind, but I guess the kind of connective tissue to the genre and to why I was listening to them would probably be drugs.
Yeah.
Um, and this
Oh,
album was certainly influenced by that. It's Miles Davis' Sketches of Spain,
yeah.
which is different than what you normally think of with jazz because it's like a very like pulsing, throbby album. It's almost droning at
Yeah.
times, but still like hauntingly melodic.
Yeah. It's a beautiful record, and there's Gil Evans as well, who does some fantastic arranging on it. He was a really skillful guy, and again, a very open-minded dude. I think he dabbled with the more freer aspects of jazz too. Yeah, Miles Davis. I mean, what can you say? Dude's a living legend. Dabbled with all different styles. Although curiously, he did seem to have a bit of a bee in his bonnet about the more free jazz elements, even though he was kind of not exactly playing it straight all the time. So I always found that kind of interesting. But as far as this record goes, yeah, pretty much flawless.
Right, right. Yeah, it's one of those. This and Agartha were the two that I was kind of torn between because I've gone through the most copies of those. But I
Sure.
think this has been more enduring, where Agartha kind of goes off into like funk and stuff like that. But yeah.
That's the live thing, is it, Agatha? I'm trying to remember.
It's the double album.
Oh, the double album. Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
I got you. No, yeah, good start. And it's definitely an album that I'd recommend if people are trying to get into Mars. I know Bitches Brew and Kind of Blue are the ones.
Yeah, those are
Yeah. Which,
they're good
rightfully
for what they
so.
are. I just think that this is you're
Rightfully
hearing
so.
more
Yeah.
creativity here.
I agree. I agree. I was just going to say, actually, this is the album that I'd recommend people check out if they were interested in Miles Davis. It's a good entry point.
Right.
Cool. All
What you
right.
got?
All right. Let's go to my next choice. Just bring up my list. Okay. This is a guy who played with John Coltrane a lot, and he's a pianist, and he's called McCoy Tyner, and the album's called Revelations, and it's a live set. I don't know New York, but it was performed at a venue somewhere called Merkin Hall, I think it was called, in New York in 1988, and it's just a beautiful record. His stuff is, obviously the stuff he did with Coltrane to kind of get a bit more offbeat at times, but this is a I don't know, it's very wistful, it feels like, and it's got one of my favorite songs. I would say probably as far as I don't want to use the word smooth jazz, as I say, because it brings up dreaded connotations, but it's probably one of my favorite songs of that kind of genre called You Taught My Heart to Sing, which is just a beautiful piece. And this guy is just super talented. And yeah, he's one of those people that, if I'm going to stick on a jazz record, he's usually the first one I go to. He's kind of like the opposite of Cecil Taylor, who I enjoy, but I have to sort of be in the right frame of mind for. He's definitely takes a more sort of cooler, um, I don't know, I daren't use the word traditional, but kind of a bit more chilled out, I'd say. So yeah, McCoy Tyner's Revelations was my next pick.
Cool. It is a little on the happy side for me,
Yeah, I get
but I do like jazz piano because it
sure,
is more abstract than classical piano. And I studied piano for years, so I always went more towards the jazz side of things than, tr classical, there are rules and structure. And while it's
sure.
good to learn the tools of the trade that way, um, the improvisational element of jazz to me was, I don't know, resonated more.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, as I say, he's kind of got a weird career really. He kind of dabbles, goes in between the more avant-garde stuff at times, but then he does stuff like this, which I appreciate both, but I think this is a record that I go back to. If I
Yeah,
just
I
want
mean, he's definitely
to kick
paying the
back,
rent with this album.
yeah, if I want to kick back and relax, this is definitely a record to put on. My one, I can't listen to Dazzling Killman and Hella Waits.
Man, nothing's wrong with
You
that.
you need to vary things up a bit. So yeah, that was
I
my
was
next.
about to say that my next pick is going to be my most metal pick of this list, but then I remembered it's not. But I first heard a cover of the kind of the keynote song from this album
Mhm.
on a album by the thrash band Riot in
Right.
the late 80s. And so then it got me into Al Di Meola,
Yep.
and the song that they were covering was Racing with the Devil on a Spanish Highway. And that's on the album Elegant Gypsy, which finds him, once again, he's not super tied into the conventional jazz approach, but there's a lot of, I mean, that in there. And there's no denying this is a jazz album.
Yeah,
It's kind of like where jazz meets progressive rock at some points, but
sure.
maybe not as crossed over as like John McLaughlin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know his solo work. Obviously, I know Return to Forever, who have one of the big three, I guess, of the fusion groups. But his solo stuff isn't one I've properly delved into. Obviously, John McLaughlin, I know he's done sort of dabbled with Indian music, I think, as well. But yeah, definitely someone I need to get into is Alden Miola. Is this a good starting point, I take
Yeah,
it?
I would say there's a live version that's really good too. Um, but yeah, I think this album's
Cool.
pretty all-encompassing because you really get to I mean, it's all about his playing, obviously, but he still serves the songs. And when you're like a teenager and you like all that kind of shreddy guitar, he can definitely do
And it
that
must.
as well as like Yngwie or Steve Vai or any of those
Was just gonna
guys.
say, yeah, it's probably a little bit. Well, I mean, I'm not really into the whole shredding thing, but yeah, I like jazz guitar, and so
But
yeah,
there's an element of shredding in jazz for
I
sure.
guess, yeah. I mean, it's not quite as ridiculous as
It's not
maybe
as flashy, but
Ingve,
they have
yeah,
the technique.
for sure, man. Cool. Okay, right. So I'll go next, and it's a soundtrack, and it's uh Ornette Coleman collaborating with a guy called Howard Shore. I think Howard Shore's gone on to do stuff for the Tolkien movies, that stuff since. But it's a soundtrack to Naked Lunch, which I mean, I'm a big David Cronenberg fan. Um, I love the film. I mean, the film is, as you can expect, unbelievably weird, featuring RoboCop, Peter Weller.
Hmm.
Uh, and the soundtrack certainly suits it. It's just as you'd expect, really. Howard Shore with his classical touches, and then Ornette Coleman wailing away. The book is fairly impenetrable. I've tried 3, 4 times to read that thing. I have no idea what he's talking about half the time. Even though I like Burroughs, but yeah, the soundtrack is just done really well, and it definitely suits the tempo and the mood of the film. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't think Ornette did that many soundtracks, but when he did, I feel like he really hit the mark, like with this one. So yeah, that's my next choice.
Right. I mean, I think that so the soundtrack makes sense because it captures like a weird psychedelic noir feel
Mm,
of his writing, which was adapted to film for that. And the movie, I think David Cronenberg and
mm.
William S. Burroughs, you can't ask for a better pairing. I mean,
Absolutely,
he's
as
a
I said,
little more gritty than David Lynch. David Lynch would be the next best bet. And I
yeah,
typically like Lynch better, but I think it
yeah.
was well suited for that. And the soundtrack conveyed what it needed to convey. And yeah.
Absolutely. As I say, I actually understood the film. The book, as I said before, I've tried 3, 4 times to read that, and it's just, I get 3 or 4 pages in, I'm lost. I have no idea what he's talking about. Unlike his other work, like Junkie and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, once you get into cockroach typewriters, it gets a little murky, but
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, maybe I'm just, maybe I should take up heroin or something to fully appreciate the.
I mean, it felt like more like an LSD movie, but
Oh, yeah.
I know that's what they were getting across. They were not blowing pesticides on those roaches, that's for sure.
Oh. It's certainly weird to see Peter Weller, it was RoboCop, and then suddenly doing this, which good on him, he did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of weird stuff though.
Sure. Cool.
Cool. So I am gonna get real modern here. I'm gonna fly up to 1985, and this is the most smooth jazz type feel of any of my albums. It is Promise by Sade. Now, this is not
No,
her best album, but it
no.
is her most jazz oriented album. So that's why
Yep.
it's included here. I mean, still, it has like, it opens up with Is It a Crime, which is like a showstopper. Like she played that during encores, um, which people would probably be surprised that I've seen Sade several times live.
Yeah.
Um,
Nothing
so
wrong with
yeah,
Saturday.
it's,
Absolutely.
great voice.
Yeah.
It's gets the job done. It's
Yeah,
not
I
Love
know.
Deluxe, but it's,
Oh,
up there.
No, I like Sade. Obviously, I've got to admit, I haven't. I know the first album, Diamond Life, which was probably the best known, I guess, in some respects. Unfortunately, she was kind of part of. There was a really awful scene in England with sort of slightly jazzy bands. I don't know. I think for some reason, Curiosity Killed the Cat were lumped in there for some bizarre reason. Hue and Cry and some god awful band, Style Council. But bands with a slight jazzy inclination. But obviously, Sade was a lot more real, um, beautiful voice. I don't know that particular record you're referring to, but what stuff I have heard from her, I've always enjoyed. So, yeah, can't argue with that.
Yeah, you it would be should check it out because it kind of fluctuates between like show tuney sounding stuff to very like loungy.
Sure. Yeah. No, can't go wrong with that, man. Sounds good.
All right, what you got?
All right, so I'm going to move on even further now. So this is a record from 1994. It's another collaboration, and it's one of my favorite bands of all time, Engine Kid, which is the great Greg Anderson from Sun O and Southern Lord, and that's his band. And then he teams up with another band who are called Iceburn, who started as a hardcore band, but then got more and more experimental into droney things also that's stuff like that. But the record I talk about, it's a split record that they do. So Iceburn do one track which is 15 minutes long, and it's called Dances, and it's kind of this. I don't know if it's a cover, but it sounds very fusiony. It's kind of a bit Vishnu kind of inspired. And then Engine Kid do their stuff. It's a bit more on the post-hardcore side, but still with jazzy flourishes. And I mean, one of their songs is called Hiking the Circumference of the Mountaintop Lake. If that's not a fusion title, I don't know what is. And yeah, it's just a really cool little release, really. It just shows that hardcore could experiment and it could sort of go into weird and wonderful new directions. And yeah, for that reason, I went with this one. I definitely recommend people check it out.
Yeah, I was surprised that this was on Revelation Records. I guess the engine
Yeah,
good element makes it make sense.
right.
And I always
Yeah,
forget that Greg Anderson came from that band.
sure.
Um, yeah, I mean, I like what I heard. It's one of those albums I have to. I don't know how I missed it when it came out, but maybe because I've never been super huge on splits, you know? And I
Yeah,
remember like hardcore shows, they always used to have pe people with like tables that would have all the albums because they weren't in record stores too that you'd
sure.
have to buy. So yeah, for some reason I missed it, but I like what I heard, so I would
Yeah.
recommend it if you're a hardcore person that's looking to get into jazz.
Absolutely. I think it's a good gateway. I mean, I think it'd be expecting a bit much for someone to suddenly start delving into Albert Ayler just like that. I think it would be difficult. But I think this is a record that shows that jazz has got something to offer. As you mentioned, the Revelation Records, yeah, I mean, you got Warzone and Judge on there, Gorilla Biscuits, and suddenly you got something like this. But, props to those guys for, taking a risk and putting something like this out shows that they were quite forward thinking.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool for sure.
Cool.
So I guess my next album's gonna kind of fit in behind that one pretty well. Rather than hardcore guys that are playing jazz, it's a jazz guy that's playing grindcore.
Okay, cool.
And this album's from 1990. It is John Zorn's Naked City,
Mm.
which is definitely a ripper that influenced bands like Mr. Bungle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Brilliant band. Of course, around a similar time, he was doing Painkiller, wasn't he? I think as
Right.
well. So yeah, he was really interesting guy, John Zorn. Obviously, free jazz guy, influenced by Ornette Coleman, etc. But also was getting into grindcore, as you say. I think he was a big Napalm Death fan, too. So that kind of makes sense that he would want to dabble with this sound. I'm trying to think who played in Naked Eye. I'm pretty sure it's the guy from Boredoms on vocals.
Right. I think so too.
Yeah, Bill Laswell, maybe I've got
Hmm.
reason. So Yeah, but definitely some amazing players in there. So yeah, can't go wrong with Naked City and or John Zorn. So yeah,
Right.
agree with that one, man.
Cool. What you got?
So, my final choice comes from this is a record I reviewed back in 2020 when I was just starting to write for the Sleeping Shaman, and they're called Last Call at Night Owls, and the record's called Ask the Dust. And it's kind of like it's basically kind of filmic noir type of stuff. It's kind of it's like a weird mix of, yeah, really dark jazz that you might have gotten on the Lost Highway soundtrack, and also kind of the vibe of very, 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 very early Frank Sinatra, like when he was just starting out and actually making music that wasn't cheesy and actually had a little bit of tragedy and heartbreak in it. It kind of has that vibe to me. And it's just really beautiful. It's really sort of beautiful. If you like things like, and I can never pronounce their name right, is it Boren and the Club of Gore? Is that it? Is that how you say it? Them,
Right.
basically. So if you like stuff like that, with drone elements as well, then you're going to like these guys. So yeah, that was my last pick.
I guess my last one has a little bit of drone in it, maybe not as drony as Miles Davis goes on Sketches of Spain.
Sure.
But similar drugs are involved, and it's a band that I always thought should have been bigger. They got lumped into 90s alternative, even though there was nothing really alternative to them. Um, this is a 1993 album by the band Morphine, and it's Cure for Pain.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, this is
yeah,
one of my favorite albums that I don't talk about all the time. Um,
sure.
it's, yeah, the mood is immaculate. It's very dark. Everybody's depressed. And yeah, I mean, that's what I want from, I'm consistent. It doesn't matter if you're Bauhaus or if you're playing jazz. That's what I want.
It's a wonderful record, and I mean, a mate of mine's, a very good friend of mine, is really into this band in a big way, and I can see why. It's very moody, um, slightly. I don't want to use the word gothic because that's not quite right, but it is, as you say, very dark and very somber and depressive, but also very beautiful at the same time. Yeah, I mean, I think sadly, is it Mark Sandman that passed away quite young, unfortunately. So we never got to hear what he could have gone on to pass then. But in any case, wonderful record, and great band.
Yes, for sure. It's definitely worth. I mean, they're one of those hidden gem bands that kind
Sure.
of, you know, it was weird because they were on Ryko Disc, which is a album or a label that I always thought of the one that like put out all the David Bowie reissues.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, they should have been bigger than they were, but I guess they're right where they need to be. So
sure. And also Ryko Disc. Yeah, I always associate it. Yeah, just sort of, you mentioned Bowie with the reissues and stuff. Same with the Meat Puppets. A lot of the Meat Puppet stuff I think got reissued by them as well. So it is a bit of a strange choice, but yeah, fair enough, really. Maybe with, I don't know, a slightly bigger label, or at least the label had a bit more prominent. I don't know, BMG or whoever, Epic. They would have gone into the public consciousness a tiny bit more, but it is what it is.
cool. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and propose our next episode is gonna be our top five live bands.
Ooh, all right.
Um, so I know we've been to more than five shows apiece, so we have a lot to draw on.
Thankfully, I think you probably outdo me in terms of the
Oh yeah, I
like.
got a decade head start.
Yeah, for sure. But I think I can still provide a few of those, so that would
Yeah,
be
so
interesting.
that's gonna be that one. If you're listening to this on Spotify, check out our YouTube. If you're listening to this on YouTube, then we got a Spotify coming up. It's gonna have some content that is not on either platform. So we're gonna split it up and yeah, so there we go. Click all the buttons that you need to click, the like and subscribe ones preferably. If not, we'll see you next week with our top 5 live bands.